Have you ever dreamed of a place where everybody understands each other? Where everyone's at peace? There's no such thing as violence or war. Everybody help themselves to accomplish greater things. A place where Sonic theme is Sega made a f***ing Sonic Adventure 3 for Christ's sake! Why are you f***ing waiting? I quit! Hello there everyone, my name is Overgamer3, bringing you guys today something a little bit different. It is actually a podcast with the Sonic Adventure theme crew, or at least some of it. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey guys, my name is Gaia.
Hello, I'm Altai from the SA3 page, the one with the stupid name.
But yeah, so today here we're gonna talk about something that I've wanted for a very, very long time. It's almost been 15 years since the last game. Could we call this actually a series? SA1, SA2, SA3? SA3?
Yes, this is great.
It's
the Adventure series.
More than one.
An individual series. So I've wanted Sonic Adventure 3 for a very long time. So as you guys, obviously, because you're from the SA3 page, I'm just pointing out the obvious now. But basically, we're gonna go over some aspect that actually the guys from SA3 page actually want and think could be the best option to go for. Since there's actually some rumors around the next game in the franchise for 2016, the 25th anniversary game should be Sonic Adventure. So there's a lot of controversy around this. So we'll go on. First thing first, the main thing here is the theme. Most people want something a little bit darker, but there's a lot of controversy because a lot of people like really light-hearted stuff. But obviously, I think you guys want something a little more dark.
Well, actually, you want to go 100 rings?
No, we can go.
Okay, well, actually, what we prefer is a balanced tone. Something that's balanced between light elements and dark elements. Well, maybe a little bit more on the dark side, but it definitely has to be balanced.
I mean, honestly, I think it depends on the game you're in. Like, if you're in a, party type game, or in a spin-off type game, perhaps a lighter tone will be more appropriate since you don't have to get so involved and it's not meant to be something ongoing. So maybe a lighter approach would be more appropriate. But in the main titles, I think it should be more, the stakes are higher, so you need more intensity, that type of thing.
Action, edginess. I know a lot of people hate edginess, but hey, it's Sonic. He was edgy even back in the classics, so...
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, a fat guy imprisoned little animals into robots, so I don't know how edgy you could call this. But
it's a bit more
Sonic
subtle.
3 and Knuckles was a
that's true.
napalms and electrocution.
When you say edginess and dark, do you mean more SA2 or SA1? Because obviously there's a difference in both of these stories. SA2 was far much more focused on far much more darker elements than SA1.
Definitely SA2. I mean, first of all, they have the whole backstory with Shadow, which was just probably the darkest part of the story, with Maria getting shot, her being a child. And it's dark and edgy and kind of mature, but it's not like overboard. And as the leader says, many kids loved SA2. Even though it has like a mature theme, it's not like too mature that kids won't understand or kids will be afraid.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
It's something that kids can appreciate.
Yeah, it's entertaining for everyone. But in that case, well, I'm going a little bit into details here, but when it comes to story, do you want a callback from the previous adventure games?
But if it's Sonic Adventure 3, I would assume that it would tie into SA1 and SA2 at least a couple of times. I mean, we can't call it a sequel, because if it's not a sequel, then it may as well be Sonic 06.
Well, references would be good, but as long as it, keeps the essence of what made the adventure games good, like, action in between and a big finale at the end, keeping the characters
interesting. Yes, definitely has to have the essence.
Yes, if it's like that, I'll be perfectly content, even if it doesn't follow up on SA2, which I don't see how it could in the first place, but
it probably won't be a direct sequel, but maybe some references just to tie the story.
Like I would be happy with that, honestly.
Like if the Ark showed up, or if they mentioned Gerald for whatever the reason, whatever the story's about. I mean, if they just brought those settings back, and oh yes, and the characterization definitely has to go back to the way it was in SA1 and SA2.
We could
otherwise, because if we have Sonic Colors characterization, it would be completely off.
Yeah, okay, a little more cockiness in Sonic, I assume, and and Knuckles actually being not dumb, but really making it back Guardian.
Go back to being the Master Emerald Guardian, not just a tag-along.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's kind of like the Tarzan, not an idiot, just like, uncultured and not in the ways of, sophisticated society.
Yeah, okay. No,
the term noble savage.
All right.
There you go. That's perfect.
Well, you mentioned back there maybe bringing back some elements like Ark, I do believe. And where will you place this in the timeline of the main canon Sonic games? Because right after SA2 is, I believe, Hero, where Shadows wake up with amnesia. So where would you put SA3 if there was one?
That is a difficult question, because it really depends on the story. Like, somebody could try to ignore the entire canon and say SA3 comes right after SA2 and ignore Heroes and Shadow and 06 and all of that. Or somebody could try to keep it within the canon and connect all the stories, but I don't know.
Maybe 06. After 06 would probably be the smartest decision. Because you can't put it directly after SA2, because if you did, it would most likely retcon everything. And the thought of retconning everything after SA2 appalls me. So I think putting it after 06 would be the smartest decision, since you still have a lot to build off of and reference, so everything seems more connected, and rather than restarting from scratch. So I think after 06 seems better.
All right, so I know I'm getting really off track here a little bit, but let's say a reboot as SA3. Will that be possible?
A reboot as SA3. I wouldn't recommend it. I really wouldn't recommend it.
Because a lot of Sonic 06 originally started as a reboot.
But 06 isn't Sonic Adventure 3, and I cannot stand when people say it is Sonic Adventure 3. It is not. It is a failed reboot, and that's all it is.
06 shouldn't have been a reboot, I think.
Well, it should have been, but they wanted it to be.
Well, it wasn't, because in the end it was a main canon, because it actually called back to the previous game. But you know what? The game story was entirely
it was a very confused title, is what I think 06 was. They didn't know what it was. First of all, it had an adventure style gameplay. They wanted to be a reboot, and then the story erases itself. And I don't think they knew what they were doing.
Then again, I don't see how it could be a reboot if it's referencing SA2 left and right.
Yeah.
Oh, did it reference SA2? I know that it had
it has the entire gun. It has the entire gun dynamic, or G.U.N. Whatever you say.
Gun was just a part of the storyline. I mean, I'm not sure if you could say it references SA2 or if it was just keeping the adventure canon alive, I guess. Like, because I mean, Gun was mentioned in Shadow 2. The president, I think. Where was the president? He wasn't
in 06 whatsoever.
Yeah, the president wasn't, but Gun was. Gun was in Chronicles 2. Gun was in Shadow. Gun was in SA2. I'm not sure if the military was in SA1 at all, but.
All right, so
it's just confusing, really.
All right, so I'm going a lot on the details here, but what characters do you want back? If I'm referring to Ulti, it should be after Ult 6. It's place someone after Ult 6. So, which character shall we bring? Should we bring like Silver?
No.
Because it's a really controversial character, but I know this is because if they do, what story would they use? And that's really confusing.
Well, I was actually talking online with someone one time. He was like, "Well, I don't see what we could do with SA3 because pretty much everything's been used." He's actually my friend, and we talk a lot. And I should probably give him a shout out. It's like his name's Daedrian Lewis, I believe. So you've been shouted out, my friend. As I continue, anyways, he was talking about how like all the ideas have been used up, and I'm thinking like, well, fans have been coming up with ideas since after 06 for who knows how long. So imagination isn't really such a big issue. It's just the writing quality must be really good because frankly it's been quite awful since Colors, and if you want to get technical about it, perhaps Unleashed. I don't know. Maybe that's too controversial.
I'm kind of over the edge on that one.
The characters to bring back, I think it all depends on the plot you're trying to write, if it involves them, because just throwing a character in because of demand isn't a very good decision. It has to have, context. It makes sense.
That's what happened with Sonic 06. They threw in so many characters, they screwed up Blaze's backstory completely.
Yeah.
And they really need, I think that depending on which characters, as Olotai said, depending on which characters come back, it really depends on the story and how it's written. Like, for instance, let's say that in SA3 they decide to use G.U.N. That would allow Rouge and Shadow and Omega to come back because they're G.U.N agents. I mean, that's just a small example. Yeah. It really depends on the story.
Well, technically, no, because if we... God damn it. We're going really into big details here. But if we place this after Ult 6, that didn't happen, by the way. Shadow isn't an agent. Shadow is an agent. Rouge is only...
just gave me an excuse.
Well, I thought Shadow became an agent after Shadow the Hedgehog.
Well, that's
kind of... No, he didn't become an agent at the end of that story, but I thought he, was recruited.
Ollie, I'm glad you brought that up because I despise the idea of Shadow working for a government agency, and you just gave me a theory that I can cling to like hope. So I want to thank you for that. I don't know. I don't like the idea of Shadow working for an agency.
Oh wait,
that's
but
just me.
Well, there's not just that. That completely breaks the point of Shadow the Hedgehog then, because he said there were only Shadow the Hedgehog, but it was pursued by G.U.N, which doesn't make any kind of sense because they made his life a living hell. So I don't understand this one. That's why I don't. There's only one G.U.N back, but Rouge just coming back just for some kind of jewelry thingy like in SA2. I mean, in SA2 her main point was she collected jewelry, but they worked for G.U.N for a double because she was a spy and stuff. But I mean,
really, Rouge.
Well, Rouge has always been an agent of the government.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but the government doesn't necessarily take that big of a role in those cases. It's always about Rouge doing her own stuff, always looking for loots. So.
Well, honestly, if G.U.N had to use Rouge, I have to say she should be used on a hiring basis, not a hired position type thing. They should just call on her when they need her. I think that would be a bit more fitting.
All right.
But okay.
Ignoring what our leader is saying.
Okay, we gotta show an image of that to our listeners.
All right.
When the editing takes place.
God. So I know. Focus here. Basically, what everyone everybody wants Shadow back for SA3. If there is one, it's a big thing. Even I would absolutely love it. They just crap on Shadow in the last game. If you take Generations, he only has one line in the entire game. You can take a look at everybody else. Every game, I believe, after Old 6, there isn't even one Shadow time exception of Generation. So what could be
in Free Riders, but he was like a money-hungry bastard.
Yeah, he was.
I really like to ignore that.
What should be the story to bring him back?
Well, that's the problem with Shadow, because a lot of people say that his story was pretty much done by the end of his game. He basically solved the mystery of his past, and he really has nothing to do, but I don't really believe that. I think that they could work on his personality. Like, give some character development.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't have to have, like, a mission. He could just work on some character development. I mean, he's antisocial as crap. He's, like, he's rude. He has issues.
I mean, like, if you had to bring him back, I wouldn't reference anything from his other games because, in all honesty, it's done. It's over. Don't reawaken and disturb old wounds from the fanboys. Like, no, don't go for that. I'd honestly start something brand new, like maybe a new temporary villain, or, I don't know, personal struggle, something along those lines, maybe. But, in long story short, I'd bring in something completely new with no references.
So in that case, what about if you think Shadow, which personality of Shadow would you prefer, like the one in SA2 or the one in AES is in most recent game, like Shadow Hedgehog, Heroes, and basically you prefer the Amnesiac Shadow, or you prefer the old one in SA2 where it was most likely an antagonist?
I say that here's what I was actually talking to one of my good friends that I won't reference because he's paranoid about everything. So, I mean, I won't say his name, but he definitely knows. But anyway, he's actually taught me a lot about Shadow the Hedgehog because the way he sees it is that the SA2 Shadow and the Hero Shadow and, you know, the infamous Shadow the Hedgehog game Shadow is like, they don't really differ from each other as dramatically as people think. And so, like, SA2 was more Shadow, not knowing who he was, and so he's trying to cling to what he is, which is, you know, the best ultimate life form. So he's hostile to Sonic, joins him at the end, you know how it goes. Then in Heroes, he doesn't remember anything.
Yeah, the amnesia.
But yeah, so it should really be about so there's not that much difference in between.
Yeah, I mean, like in Heroes, he was more like gathering information about, you know, who he was and that type of thing. So not much character development went on. It was more like information collection. So yeah. And then in Shadow the Hedgehog, aside, you know, ignoring the intro where Shadow seems like, you know, a rage-filled monster. He actually doesn't use a gun once in the cutscenes. He doesn't hold one or anything like that. And, you know, he remains more, you know, personal and introspective throughout the game. Well, you know, except certain endings. But throughout the cutscenes, for the majority of the time, he stays the same. So I really don't think there's too much of a difference between Shadow of SA2 and, you know, to the game he was in. Except he just changed a little because, you know, his character progressed.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In the final games, like Free Riders and you know, we don't need to comment on that because that's all terrible.
all right. So I got a pretty good idea now which character likes Sonic, a little more cockiness with the story and everything. Now we're talking a little bit more about the areas the characters go through, because obviously if you take both adventure games, they both have incredibly different assets to them, like environments, level-wise, how does it look, atmosphere, and everything. So, what do you guys think about that? Because when you think something like SA1, it's far much more bright colors, where in SA2 it's far much more dark and and just the environments are kind of bleak somehow. It's really dark. What do you guys would like?
Well, I think that SA1 is, I should guess, brighter than SA2. It probably just to match the tone and the mood of the game. Like, you know, SA2 is the darker story, so I guess. And I mean, it does have bright, like City Escape was pretty bright. I mean, some of the earlier stages are bright, and then as the story goes along, it becomes darker in tone, darker in mood, and darker in color. SA1, on the other hand, I mean, other than the city flooding, it was pretty. It was lighter than SA2. It had a lot of light moments, a lot of goofiness, especially with Knuckles getting crushed. Tails and Sonic crashing a plane and screaming and cheering. It was just lighter. There is a conversation going on. The fellow viewers cannot see what's going on here. What are you guys talking about?
Oh, I was just talking about like how if you look closely at SA1 and 2, while they still use the same, you know, formula, they're like kind of like SA2 is more of a sci-fi, and SA1's more of a fantasy game, almost.
Yeah, that is a.
I think it's like that because SA1's more supernatural and more spiritual, if you will, while SA2's more technological and more.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
More of a thriller. Well,
I never thought about it like that.
But you think SA1 environments, they're all really natural and they kind of make sense in a way. But you take something like SA2, it's always over the top. You take something like Pumpkin Hill, like there's giant towers of pumpkin everywhere. That's the difference in environment, and I'm wondering which one could fit better. Again, it's depending around the story, and but all in all, which one could fit the best?
That is a little difficult to. I guess that both could fit. I mean, SA1 and SA2 are. Well, problem is we don't really care about that. It's not what they fight for. Stated by Leader Era. Well, I wouldn't. I guess it's just something we don't think about. That's why I'm having such a hard time finding how to say this. It's not. I guess it's not really a big focus. Which one's better? Which environments work better? I mean, yes, but as Lead Era says, we aren't the game developers. It's not our job to make the game.
Well, it's not really about that. It's more about the setting, because in that case, like, if I were a game developer, I'll talk more about the level design.
Old Ty is back.
That is some ungodly nose.
That is true. It's not really a competition between SA1 and SA2. Like, which one works better. I mean, they were both work in their own right.
People like to make them competitions.
Well, more of it, but those two, like, SA1.
Well, I'm very well aware of that. It's just that setting-wise, the environment must fit the story in some way.
Yes, I mean, some of the levels, like Pumpkin Hill, do seem a little thrown in there, but I think that the game developers were just playing around.
But even then,
they just thought it'd be a good idea. Maybe it was Halloween when they were working on that level. I don't know.
But even then, you have things like Metal Harbor, which everything is always over the top. Like, you ride a freaking rocket at the end, for example. It's always, like, over the top. Well, I say I want to ask these moments. Actually, I shouldn't talk about this, but really, well, I guess we can agree that we all want something that is over the top, like.
Yes, I can agree with that.
Because that's what really brings people in, because they are impressed visually because of what's happening on screen. From what I've seen of you guys, you really like when it's cool content, where the game visually impresses you.
Yes, actually, we were talking about this in the Roger Vanderweek's Dissected series about, what was it, Spectacle, I believe? When we, what did he say? I believe, like, Spectacle and, making everything interesting. And yes, action, you definitely have to draw the, audience in with, tons and tons of over-the-top action. What did he say? I believe he said the adventure games are kind of like B-rated movies.
B-grade movies, yeah.
Yes, that's it. Just with the way they are, there's action all over the place, and I guess Sonic, even in the classic Sonic had action. He was always like in motion. There was always something going on in the cutscenes. It's just action is a part of, well, yes, goofy action, but it's just been a part of Sonic.
I mean, like,
even in SA1, SA2, it works because that's just how Sonic is.
I mean, in the classics, he was like in space, like 3-4 times. It wasn't his first time going in space in SA2, so it's not that different.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just action's just a part of Sonic. Well, pop culture.
Pop culture reference. What do you mean by that exactly?
Our leader is typing.
Yes, our leader is. Oh, yeah, Supersonic. Supersonic being kind of a reference to Dragon Ball Z.
Well, I'm gonna put a pause on that one. I don't know anything about the development of Sonic 2 for the Genesis, but as far as I'm aware, that episode where Goku transformed into Super Saiyan came out the same years as Sonic 2.
I'm pretty sure that it was stated that they were inspired by Goku Super Saiyan.
I'm pretty
I don't want to say they ripped
inspired
it off,
by it.
but I'm pretty sure they said they were inspired by it.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Interestingly,
sure
Yuji denies it.
No, I thought that they came out and said it, but I'd have to search an article for that one.
I am not 100% sure, but I seem to remember that.
May have denied it, but they can't deny it.
Well, I can definitely see the reference here. Just 7 Dragon Ball, 7 Chaos Emerald, but which idea came first of the Super thing? I'm pretty sure it's Dragon Ball, honestly, because there's a crap load of reference in Dragon Ball.
Yes.
In the Sonic series. Actually, there's a crap load of reference of anything, to be perfectly honest, but.
Well, that's the thing about Sonic. I mean, he's just always had references to pop culture in his games. And, I mean, it's really cool, actually. I mean, you kind of like it. Those little references.
Well, in this case, since, I know I'm getting, back in a little bit that you guys, and you guys don't really like this, but, like, we all love over-the-top things like going to space and stuff. How far will you bring this?
How far, as in like how often will it appear?
Well, I don't. No, not how often, but how big should it be? Because again, it depends on the story. But let's say, should he go into the other dimension? Because like something I've seen just plenty of time, but. Like,
oh, I think I know what you're saying. How big should the scale be?
Yeah, the scale of the game.
Again, I think that's tied back to the writing, because if you get too big, the writing gets harder and harder. If you write too many dimensions and planets and other stuff like that,
okay, first
eventually
screw up time travel. Screw this. Scrap this out of here, please. Because we saw how it fared in Sonic also, so I don't want any of this. But
it's funny because in Sonic CD, time travel was perfectly fine. In 06, it was a disaster. So, I mean, if it's tied to gameplay, that makes it more simple. Maybe if writing time travel, that's much more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, Lead Era says Sonic CD. It was a mess. I guess it depends on how you perceive the time travel.
That's the thing, because it was included in the gameplay and not in the story. Well, at least it wasn't drastically affecting the story.
Well, yeah, the classic games had simple plots regardless.
Well,
So,
it's not
I
that,
mean-
but because in Sonic CD, how you actually found the game, like you go in the past and you kill those roboticizer, actually
Well, yes.
affected the future, but it stayed the same as you go along. So it wasn't like a predetermined path, like
In
something
short-
that you write, like
In short, it's self-contained.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, yeah, I guess that's how it works because it's self-contained, but
well, in the case that it's good writing, I know I'm completely saying crap right now because I heavily doubt Sonic Team and Sega will ever consider making good writing for a Sonic game. But at least the modern ones. But let's say there's time travels. Let's say.
oh boy.
Should it be a good? Could it be a good plot?
It could. It would take some writing. Definitely someone who knows what they're doing. But
Yes,
it's-
they have to have a good understanding of
Yeah.
time travel and dimensions and
Because
the butterfly effect.
I'm always open to see how the writers can bring some good things out of it. But because of the scales of the adventure game, I'm starting to think if they bring that scale that high, what could they do with it?
Well, on the time travel topic, I think that if you were to include it, it shouldn't include the entire cast because that's just too huge. It should
Yeah.
include like maybe one or two characters at the most, so it's easier to work with. And then if you have some sort of desperate want to add in others, add them in slowly, maybe. I don't know. It sounds like a plan to me.
Okay, then. What again? Let's say they use this. What characters should they bring in? And I'm gonna be completely throwing the concept out of the window here. But could they bring new characters?
Could time travel bring new characters?
Or just the story in general?
Well, oh, you mean the story in general? Because
Yeah.
I thought you meant time. Oh,
Okay, you get this one. I'll comment later.
Because Silver was brought through time travel, but I believe it was retcon in the future games.
yeah.
Well, I don't know actually. I know in Soul 6 he was from the future, but then that story never happened, so who cares? But then you get to something like Sonic Rivals 2, where it's just from another dimension. I think, or was it again in the future? I don't know. But could they bring new IPs in the series in general?
Let me think. Like, okay, so Silver. Well, see, the problem with Silver is that time travel is such a hard thing to write. And it really kind of messed Silver up. Like, even though they shoehorned him into future games, they really had no business putting him in there because now it screwed up his backstory. He came from the future, but then in future games, he's from an alternate dimension. And it's inconsistent, I should say. Like, if they're gonna bring somebody from the future, then they have to make sure that person stays, I guess, in the future, unless something happens where they can't return to the future, because then this character, like Silver, ends up in multiple games, and
Because
then it just feels like he's being forced.
Then you mess up the
That's
time.
just in my opinion, however. It just feels like they forced Silver.
Alright then.
Bag.
Now let's go into crazy mode here, because we weren't already crazy enough. Now I'm going extremely into not nitpicking here, but extremely good, not even good, but details. What could be a story for Shadow if he's brought back?
Ooh, a good story for Shadow.
Because I've seen some good videos and article online, and I think because they tied up with SA3, and I absolutely love them because of that. Well, I think they could add up death to it, and I'm just wondering overall ideas?
That's actually something I need to think about because I've been racking my brain about that and I cannot think of anything substantial as of yet.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I've actually thought of something for Silver other than Shadow, actually. That's how tough it is for me.
I got something a bit different here. Then,
okay, let's
how could they bring back Knuckles? Because originally it was the Guardian of Master Emerald, and I want him back that way. But
yes.
Oh my love, Knuckles is the love of my life. No. I have to get a screenshot of that too. Oh my gosh.
Let me guess, it's Rouge.
Okay, so Admin Era suggested for Knuckles' comeback, he should go away from the island to get laid.
By Rouge, I assume.
By Rouge.
There is no other way around it.
Or Shake, what's he called?
Yeah, but
possibly his grandmother.
You look back at SA1, they had a good reason to have Knuckles because Chaos was in the Master Emerald and stuff, so it had to the plot and everything. Then you get to SA2, and just drove him away from his job with the Guardian of the Master Emerald. His only purpose was really to just stop the Chaos Emerald at the end. He didn't have any purpose other than that. And I'm really thinking about how you could bring him back, because the only way you could bring him back is by the Master Emerald. Honestly, there's no other way around it.
Well, see, because I am a huge, and I mean enormous, Knuckles fangirl. I was thinking, to see, a lot of people are saying, well, why don't they just write the Chaos Emerald out? And I don't really, not the Chaos Emerald, the Master Emerald out, and I don't really think that'd be a good idea. The Master Emerald has been established ever since Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and it would just be horrible to get rid of it, just out of the blue. So maybe they could write it out somehow. I mean, not write it out, but maybe they could have Knuckles, I don't know, somebody once suggested put an alarm system around the Master Emerald, that way he doesn't have to guard it. Somebody said he should bury it in a cave. I mean, actually that could work, because in Sonic 3 and Knuckles he did have it hidden in a cave. I mean, that way people can't find it and he has to worry about thieves.
Yeah, it was inside.
And then he could cut back on his guarding duties and help save the girl. I had my own idea, which was, I don't know, have Chaos guarded. I mean, Chaos was the original Guardian. He did slaughter the whole Echidna tribe in the first place, so he was the Guardian.
But then you have to bring in the story, because if you gotta bring Knuckles, then you gotta get the reason why he's not guarding the Master Emerald.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, maybe Chaos could take turns. I mean, one of the reasons I think Knuckles would even go along on the adventures, because he's been isolated on his island his whole life. He probably wants to adventure and explore around as much as he fights with Sonic. I think he really wants friends. He's been a loner his whole life. It could be character development.
Yeah, I see.
Friendship phase.
I see, but at the same time, that means that you absolutely gotta show what is guarding the Master Emerald in that case, which means that you somewhat bring, let's say, Chaos back, which means if you bring him back, you gotta do something with it, because it's just useless if you don't.
Well, if I may add something,
did he ever disappear? I mean, he floated off to heaven at the end of SA1, but I thought he just went back inside the Master Emerald.
That's what I think too.
But that was probably much of my assumption. Maybe he did disappear. I guess it's kind of open.
I think that, like, if I may add some, like, real quick.
Right.
I was under the impression that when Tikal and Chaos floated off, they went, like, into quote unquote a spiritual realm in the Master Emerald, and they guarded from there, while Knuckles guards it on the outside. So I was thinking, like, maybe when Knuckles leaves, he uses Master Emerald energy to summon, I don't know, a golem or a guard or a temporary guard or something that, you know, protects it while he's gone. So that way you don't have to worry about writing a plot for whoever's guarding it and thus
Yeah, it's just
you
a
don't
simple
it's
thing.
not as bulky. Yeah, like a spirit guard or something.
But then you have to mention in the plot.
Oh, that could be mentioned right from the start, so no confusion.
Yeah, like, okay, like, let's say that Knuckles is getting ready to leave for his adventure. He's packing his grapes, whatever he carries with him on his adventure. And right before he leaves, he summons the Guardian. It could just be a tiny little cutscene, and then everybody will know, hey, this person is guarding the Master Emerald.
Yeah,
I mean-
alright. Alright, I can see that happening.
I mean, if they were going... No, not to get played. You know how many soccer moms would attack...
Oh my
Hey, you
my
know what?
God.
Sex is good.
The moral guardians will explode.
We would...
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not saying that they're gonna throw Knuckles in every single plot, because he is kind of a solitary person. That's just his personality. But if they wanted to put him in just to please Knuckles fans like me, they could just, I don't know, summon Chaos to call some kind of guardian and just or whatever. Didn't he have a pet dragon or something in Sonic Underground? I shouldn't even.
Oh, I did not even watch that show.
Oh,
I can't
God.
get past episode like 7. I can't get past that show.
I skipped right to his episode, but anyway, he could just have some kind of guard, stand-in guard for him, or alarm system, just for, I guess, fan service.
Alright, completely throwing the concept out of the window here and completely throwing the subject too, because why not? This subject and concept are our friends together. And have any of you even watched the entire Sonic X show?
I've watched a good majority of it. Honestly, I cannot get through that show. It feels like an insult or like some sort of irony because the plot moves so slow, but it's about Sonic and it drives me crazy.
I know it's a really controversial topic when it comes to Sonic, other than games, so I just felt like mentioning this one. I am very glad with my answer.
God! Excuse me for a second.
Yes. I mean, like one of my admin friends says it's good because it highlights the Hedgehog world, human world clash and creates some funny moments, which I will agree on that. That's good, but it kind of does it too much for me. Like, okay, we get it. The world kind of, thinks Sonic's a novelty. Move on. And then you just get Sonic and Chris traipsing around doing nothing. You get baseball scenes, which are pointless.
Wait.
I mean...
Don't you like Chris?
No, I do not like Chris. No one likes Chris. I mean, like, I think there are more Chris haters than there are Elise haters. I'm gonna say that with confidence. I think.
It's fine. It's not everybody.
Yeah, I'd actually
to begin
agree with that, but yeah, he does have a lot of haters.
So I think I'm gonna shut up on this topic for now because that is very controversial. But Sonic is a different show in the original version, so
It really is, but I've seen the Japanese version, and it really doesn't do it for me either. I mean, by nature, it's better because, it's closer to the source material than, the 4Kids edition. But I really can't get into it because, one, as anyone knows, I'm more into shonen and basically the fighting and the turn off your brain and watch the action type anime. So to watch Sonic X, which is nothing but boredom.
Well, just like Lead Era, I happen to be I'll say I enjoyed Sonic X, at least some parts of it. Not the 4Kids version, but, the Japanese version. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not horrendous at all. I mean, I guess it depends on the person. Really.
Taste, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I cannot stand that show.
You got no idea how much fun this was for me. Going back a little bit on the topic because we were separated from the actual subject here. When I say tree overall, quick thoughts on story and presentation wise.
On story. Let me see. Well, let's see. I do know that the story should definitely be balanced. But other than that, I can't really say much because there are so many story ideas for SA3 out there that Sega could use. I just hope that it's not child-oriented, I will say. I don't want SA3 story to be full of jokes, full of puns, or hideous dialogue. None of that. If SA3 has a story, it should definitely be like SA1 or SA2, or a combination of both.
Would the storybooks be a bad thing to go off of?
Storybooks are definitely, they're pretty good. I mean, yeah, they have the adventure tone, so I'd agree with the storybooks. Just anything but colored and Lost World.
Well, you know, the Storybook series is it's really ripping off stories, to be perfectly honest, because you look at the storybook, I agree with the tone that it was going for, but it's like you throw Sonic into the Arabian Nights.
Fairy tale.
You threw Sonic in King Arthur's world. That's just really ripping off other stories, and I don't like it for that.
Well, I mean, I guess that's why they're called storybooks. I mean, they're putting them in storybooks, and I don't know if it was the best idea, but...
Well, if it's like, as long as the tone of the storybooks or of like SA1, SA2, that type of thing, and even like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, if it has those tones, that's fine, but not necessarily storybook concepts have to be added in. Just, you know, the general, you know, approach they all took is what, you know, should be implemented.
Alright, and I believe setting-wise you guys have probably not a whole lot to say about this one.
Settings? Say that one more time?
Around the setting of the world.
Honestly, I think it should vary depending on what game it is, from like the South Island classic area to the quote-unquote Earth area of, you know, Adventure 1 and Adventure 2.
Alright.
Because
world is pretty undefined. Like, it's really inconsistent. Like, it's hard to tell if he's still on, well, if South Island is even still canon, or if he's in, like, sometimes they say he's on Earth, and then sometimes they say he's on some other planet. Well, they act like he's on some other planet with cartoony.
Yeah, Unleashed.
I mean, like it's really hard to say where exactly they are. And first of all, I believe that they should define Sonic's world a little bit more so people get a better understanding of where they're at. Because it changes like every game.
Flame Shield on. I would like to see Mobius.
See, that's because I keep saying Mobius too. Like, I try not to because I know that was Sega of America concept, but I don't know. I just feel like Mobius, it should just be called Mobius, not Earth. Just I hate calling it Earth when you look at the classic games. That doesn't look like Earth.
Because if you go with something like Earth, then you go with inconsistency problems. Like you look at actually from the beginning of the Sonic Adventure era, every time we see humans, like you take something from Sonic Adventure 1, the big whale that chase you in the Emerald Coast. Why is there naturally looking whale but mutant hedgehogs?
Yeah,
and cats and stuff. It's inconsistent. So I would prefer if Sega said it's Mobius.
There's the problem with making it Mobius, because if you like make Mobius and then make Earth, it'll be really difficult to explain why Sonic's planet hopping and how he's planet hopping and why he's planet hopping. It'll be generally difficult to you know, explain that every single time. So I would actually prefer if they kept it Earth, but made South Island really huge, and the humans haven't discovered it for some reason. I haven't figured out the reason. Maybe magic. I don't know, something like that. like South Island is a pretty mystic area, so it really wouldn't be too preposterous to say, well, the humans haven't discovered it because of magic, whatever that is. So, I mean, it makes sense on a certain level, but my point is that it'll be kind of hard to explain why Sonic's hopping from Mobius to Earth every other second, depending on what people want in the game at the time.
All right, so in the case of SA3, we should better just stay with Earth because that's what that was the one that we had in SA1 and SA2.
Yes.
All right, so we'll go with Earth. Earth? I don't know. I'm not even saying it correctly. That's how great I am with English, people. I am an awesome person.
Interviewer. Yes, you are. Thank you. We all love you. We all love you.
I think I'm gonna end things off here. We pretty much said all the things I wanted to talk about. How about you guys? Do you have any last words?
Well, I guess we can cover game mechanics in the part 2, if there ever is a part 2, because that seems pretty big and like pretty opinionated, because there really is no right or wrong answer. So pretty much anyone can comment on that, on what they like. So other than that, I think we've covered more, and if not, we'll double back and confuse the audience even more, I guess.
Well, there is one thing that lead admin Arrow would like to cover, which is the SA3 pillars. So hold on, I have to pull them up from the page. Or, you know what, Old Ty, do you have them still with you?
Actually I do, but it'll take a minute to upload, and getting the link is faster, so I'll get it. I actually revised it. I don't know if you read the revised version or not, but here it is.
All right. So can you, just for the audience, can you give me a general look at the pillars?
Well, the pillars, they cover the basics
it.
of what made the adventure game so appealing. Oh, well, you go on. It's okay.
Alright, so for the pillars, we have how many? It was, I believe, 5 pillars. And just as Old Ty said, that they the 5 pillars cover the fundamentals of the adventure series. The first pillar being spectacle and appeal. And basically, we just talk about how the adventure series is pretty known for its epicness and over-the-top settings and abilities, which we discussed earlier. And I believe that SA3 should definitely still have the the epic adventure feel that SA1 and SA2 had.
All right.
Second pillar is the enthusiastic use of side characters. Very important. Characterization is probably it's such a vital aspect of the adventure series, and really we know what characterization has done if not done correctly, like in later games, like everything post color, the characters just aren't written right and it becomes a huge mess. So a vital point for the side characters is to give them clear, refined, distinctive personalities, and each character should have a sense of fun and maybe a little bit of mystery. And they should all pretty much have a role, definitely, in the story. I mean, that's just definite. Okay, so our third pillar, emotional investment in the plot, and this is just as important. Recent stories have pretty much just been strung together, slapped together at the last second. Barely any emotional investment is in the stories. All we get is Sonic standing around, telling jokes. Tails is his henchman. Eggman is the idiot. And us as viewers feel very distant. It feels like Eggman, Tails, and Sonic are just standing around having their own little sitcom episode, and we're just not even a part of it. It's kind of like watching a television show. You're the audience. You're a distant observer. That's not really how gaming should be. The gamer should be immersed in it, a part of the adventure. And I think that immersion is something that Adventure 1 and Adventure 2, basically, even Shadow and 06 to an extent, they had that immersion factor where the player felt like a part of the gang because they put so much emotion into the story. Especially SA2, my goodness. Whew. Okay, so our fourth pillar. Our fourth pillar is appropriate tone for an older audience. Oh my goodness. I'm pretty sure half of the Sonic fanbase is aware of this now because I'm seeing a lot of people complain about the child-friendly direction. Yeah, that child-friendliness has got to stop. Kids are not interested in it. Us older fans are not interested in it. SA3, you know what? Not even SA3. Just Sonic in general has to be for everyone again. I mean, that's just vital. It can't be aimed at kids. Kids just don't care. The kids are over here playing Battlefield, Call of Duty, and Halo. They don't care about Sonic. They don't care about it. It's too corny to them. It's too babyish. It's too Candylandish.
You know, it's funny because kids I talk to still talk about SA1 and SA2 as if, it's still new games. So if the games were like that, kids will like them anyway. Kids don't want to be coddled. So
yes, they definitely do not want to be coddled. And that's why this fourth pillar is very important. It's not even important for the adventure series. It's important for the entire franchise as a whole. Like, Sonic just has to be for everyone again. But in any case, let me continue on to our last pillar, which is universe consistency. This is what we were just talking about with the Mobius versus Earth thing.
Yes.
Sonic's universe is pretty inconsistent from the classics and how cartoony, well, they say cartoony, it's not really cartoony, but I guess the checkerboard patterns, the textures are very different from the settings of the adventure game. Like the classics had a surreal kind of setting, and the adventure games had a realistic setting. Heroes kind of tried to go back to that surreal classic feel, I guess, but it was kind of out of place because then right afterwards, Shadow went straight to grim dark setting. So yeah, it's Sonic universe is very inconsistent. It's something that definitely needs to be fixed.
But in the case of SA3, it should be considered Earth to kind of not mess things up compared to the other two titles.
I mean, it could still be Earth, but I mean, if they're going to have a cartoony or surreal, I should say, levels or worlds, then they need to, I guess, say that. I really think that they should do like a Sonic Bible or something and just explain how Sonic's universe is set up. That way everybody knows like what's going on.
I actually had that idea. Like, not to cut you off, but like I had an idea of Sega releasing like appendices on like the games in general as like the final answer on everything, so people can stop the guessing and the theorizing and all that. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but then again, it may take away from some of the mystique and that people may like. So
well, it might take away from the mystique, but I think that at this point they should do anything they can. I mean, it's not even Sonic's world that's inconsistent. The character's inconsistent. I mean, everything is just about inconsistent with Sonic. I mean, even the music is inconsistent. That's bad. Like, they go from rock and roll, which I love, Crush 40, to orchestrated crap with Unleashed, and then we got Lost World. Everything about Sonic is just about, cash. Just about everything with Sonic is inconsistent, and it really needs to be fixed pronto.
Well, like, if I can bring up a flame shield again, I actually really like Sonic Unleashed soundtrack.
Okay, well, I'm just being mean, okay? Alright, I'm nicer. It's not bad, but it feels a little generic to me. I mean, like, I don't know if, I mean, okay, I like orchestrated music, but I don't know if it fits Sonic. You know,
No, I
it's
get
all
it.
about speed, adrenaline, I mean...
I get it. I much prefer Crush 40 and the Sonic Adventure through Rock and Roll. I think much better than anything.
Unleash feels like it's a small world. Yeah,
Well-
like, cause Sonic and most of his friends are all a bunch of teenagers. I mean, and you know how teenagers are. They listen to music genres, and not orchestrated music. It just fits Sonic as a character to have rock and roll. That's just my take on it, though. I won't say it as fact. Teenagers are full of hormones.
Well, if I can bring one last thing, I'm personally a teenager. I'm still very young, and I really love orchestral music in general. I can get that the general audience want rock and roll because it fits the energy and feels of Sonic. I can agree with this more than anything else because Crush 40. But you can go over what people expect in some way. You can. I'm trying to explain.
Exceed expectations.
Yeah, in some way, because no matter what the series gave us in soundtracks, okay, excluding very few games, but all the main canon games, except from maybe Sonic, Shadow the Hedgehog, really give us good soundtrack in general. In general.
I agree.
So I don't
Yes.
really care which genre it is, but even then you can kind of mix things up with SA3 because you can get things like you remember like SA1, SA2, each individual character had individual genre of music to them.
Well, I mean, like, a lot of people will say, like, dubstep fits the youth spirit, and that's what the kids are listening to. But, I mean, honestly, if you listen to dubstep, it's a bit too sporadic for Sonic. Well, that's just my personal opinion on it, I guess.
Well, I don't
but
think
it feels too
dubstep.
chaotic.
Okay, that's that.
Well-
I won't like this. I already know that.
I don't think dubstep fits Sonic. I
No,
mean,
no,
I'll admit to everyone I do like a little bit of dubstep, but no, I'm not. Don't think I'm a crazy fan. No, I'm not. um,
All right, let's just
but
say,
I don't even think it fits Sonic anyway.
let's give the job to Jon Sanu. He'll do everything. I trust this guy.
But yes, just like Lead Era said, orchestra is not really, I guess, aggressive enough for Sonic. You know, he's all about speed. Orchestra is kind of when
It's too
I think of
formal.
orchestra, I
That's the
think
word.
of like old classical music people sitting in an opera house listening to instruments being played. Like that's not really
Yeah.
useful.
It's too
formal.
formal is the word I'm looking for. And, like, for the record, I don't like dubstep, but I will say drum and bass fits better. If you don't know what that is, here is an example for your convenience. You are welcome.
Thank you, old time.
Thank you.
But I mean, if I'm capable of doing so, I'll post it in the comments of wherever it's posted, Facebook, I guess, so, or YouTube, whichever.
Well, really, it's opinion based, so we shouldn't really bring too much of this. All I can say is I'll give the job to Jon Sanu. I know he'll do a fantastic job no matter what. Exception of Sonic 4 episode 2. That is the only exception.
Well, as for orchestra, I think orchestra can fit in certain situations. Like if something poignant or something emotional is happening, then yeah, maybe. But if Sonic's like, I don't know, skateboarding or snowboarding or like
Nah.
doing like some sort of extreme parkour, no, keep the
No.
orchestra music out.
But you keep something, the essence of like, I shouldn't say this, but you have something like Sonic 06 Final Battle, Sonic Unleashed Final Battle. You know, all of these are orchestral and they're kind of epic.
Mm-hmm.
So it could.
Yeah, so it can fit. It just depends on like.
It depends on
situation.
the situation.
Yeah.
Yes. I can agree with that. Era said what?
So do you guys have anything to cover up? Anything?
Well,
else?
we pretty much went. Briefly, very briefly, went over the filler. I believe that perhaps a link should be provided. A link should be provided to the full pillars.
Contact interview.
Well, would you really like to discuss the Ken Pontac interview?
Well, in that case, do you guys have any hope the 2016 game for the 25th anniversary will be SA3? Do you have any hope?
I mean, like, maybe? I really can't tell at this point because we don't have enough information about... We don't have enough information about the modern Sonic right now. I think.
Well, that is also true. As stated, like earlier, Sonic Team is apparently revamping Sonic once again. The Generations/Lost World gameplay is apparently not returning. They could take Sonic in any direction. I mean, but what I want to say is that with the way the current Sonic Team is and how confused and jumbled they kind of are, I'm not really sure if I don't want to, because I'm an SA3 supporter definitely, but I don't know if 2016 is, I don't know if they're ready for that.
Well, because if they have to bring SA3, the 25th anniversary game will absolutely be the perfect occasion for that. Because if they want to bring some of the fan base back, this is it. This is it. This is a perfect opportunity. Because not only,
I mean, it's hard to call because they, had no clue what the general gamer of, the casual gamer or the, people in the fan base, what they wanted for so long. Now all of a sudden they decide to, they know exactly what they want. The cool content, the youth spirit, all that kind of stuff back. It seems unlikely that they will all of a sudden know what the people want after so many years of giving them what they don't want. So, I mean, like, it's kind of hard to call right now because then again, they may know and may have known for the longest time, but decided to go the other route instead. That's another theory, but...
Okay, I'm gonna make the stupidest argument ever here.
Go on.
They screwed up so many times.
Yes.
How could they possibly screw this up even more?
That's true.
We're at the verge of a soft reboot. What could come next? What could possibly come next? The Boom was essentially a try at a soft reboot. Will it catch on? Will people like it? Will, can we replace modern Sonic? And once they figured out mostly everyone hates it, they're like, okay, we'll just split things down the middle. At least that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, but I mean, because once Sonic 06 came, now the second Sonic 06 came, Sega realized they did a major. They basically crapped in a bucket. So with that, 2 years later, we got Sonic Unleashed, which was a hell of a lot better than 06. It still wasn't the Sonic Adventure 3 feeling, but that shows that they've hit the bottom of the barrel. And they can do better than this. Because no matter what they'll do, they never piss off the fan base as much as they did back in 06. So I think this is gonna get better with time.
Well, that is true. I can only assume that they'll get better. I hope that they learn their lesson.
Well, if we don't have content...
I understand. I'm pessimistic when it comes to Sega. I try to be optimistic. I am pessimistic when Sega. Oh.
Okay, it's Sega. It's Sega, alright? They've never made another Night game. They never made another Rise Star. So I don't expect anything out of it. I'll be perfectly honest here. I would just absolutely love if they make this decision to actually not screw this up.
To look at a game like, you just mentioned like 06 was basically crap in a bucket, but I mean, if you look at it from a different perspective, like the casual gamers interaction versus the fan base's interaction, of course, you know, when 06 first dropped, everyone universally rejected it. But if you look at like the sales and whatnot, it actually did pretty well, hitting platinum charts twice.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
that is true.
Depends. So I mean, like, to gather casual interest, you would like need to do something similar to 06 or like SA2, because honestly, those are the two games casuals remember. Like, whenever I greet anyone online, they're like, I haven't been in the fan base, but I really like SA2. Like, that's like the norm of what I encounter.
Yeah, that's why I think SA3 can boot the series up again, because if they do it correctly, you not only bring a lot of people in, but you can keep them in. Because you've created something like this. There's a reason why 06 sold so much, is because it had a similar formula to the first two adventure games.
It had the appeal.
Yeah, that's why people were attracted to it. If they make a Sonic Adventure, that is a really smart decision for the sales themselves. Doesn't matter if the game is crap, they will make money. I don't want the game to be crap, but it's a really smart choice if they decide to make it.
Yes, I can agree with that.
Alright, so anything else to add? I think we're done.
No, I think we covered everything.
I think that's it.
And that was just a story and presentation. that is amazing. I love you guys for that.
I still feel like we could have covered more.
Yeah,
but, you know, that. like I said, part two maybe. I don't know. I can't tell the future. I don't know.
Oh, so you want to do a part
pretty
2?
long as it is.
Yeah.
You might have to.
We should
split this into a couple parts.
Well, granted, there will be a lot of editing for me to do. So, well, I think I'm gonna end things off here just for the sanity of everyone at home who's probably just being. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna end things off here. And the last word for you guys, maybe check out your page or something.
Yes.
Okay.
Please come over to the SA3 Facebook page and hang out with us. We're really nice and lovely, and we won't fight with you.
Despite
against
as long as you're not
popular opinion, against what everyone says, we are not haters. We are only criticizers. If that's any better,
that's better.
Yes.
Being a hater.
Sometimes we're positive, but sometimes we're negative. We just have opinions. That's all.
Well, not so much hater as we are critical. Being critical can be going both ways, you know, praising the good and criticizing the bad. So criticals, I think, is a better term.
Critical is a better term because you look at things objectively.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why it's. I think that you look at things subjectively too, but I don't know.
I mean, if you look at it objectively, it's tougher to make excuses for it because you can't tie your emotions to it. So you have to be brutally honest, and that can come off as negativity sometimes.
Well, if we're going to be honest, our page is more subjective than.
Yeah, yes,
the lead admin era says we are subjective, and we'll just keep it honest. We are. We are.
But you gotta be objective somewhere, because then you just break the line of just your own opinion and what actually would make things good or not. That just.
We're probably objective from time to time, but really we're mainly subjective.
Well, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. You need to have opinions, because then you're. Yeah. This is just the whole thing's pointless if you don't have any opinion against something. So, yeah. Nothing else. That is one hell of a awkward sign. So, really, I just.
Because there's our discussion going down in the chat that the viewers can't see, and good lord. Okay.
Okay, you know what? Screw this. Thank you guys for watching. There may be part 2 in the future. I got no idea. That's gonna depend on you guys from the SA3 page. If you like the video, well, you know what to do, because every YouTuber ever says you that. So, with that said, my name is Overgamer3, and what are you guys' names?
And this is Gaia. And
I am Altai.
And Era in the chat. And thank you guys again. So, maybe I'll see you next time. I don't know. For part 2.
We'll try. We'll try.
We'll try.
Yes.
All right. So see you guys next time. Maybe.
All right. Goodbye.
Probably.
Keep going.